getting into the thick of the Big 12 schedule now. Next step for Texas, ranked 13 in the top 25. Going to take on a TCU team that's now finding their stride, winners of 2 straight. At this point in the year, the Big 12 standings, all important. Texas has dipped recently, checking in at 6-4, coming off that important win at Kansas State. Meanwhile, TCU 4-5, but certainly dangerous as they are now getting healthy and available. I'm Lo Galindo here with Lance Blanks. And Lance, we know when it comes to Texas, it's about the guard play, right? And we saw against Kansas State, they shot really well. And all 3 guards, Coleman, Jones, Ramey, they had really strong performances. They're going to need them tonight.
Well, yeah, they'll need to find their stride. And it's like they've come out of a little bit of a COVID tunnel, if you will, but they know this game is about focus. They are the big 3, and Coach Shaka Smart trusts them as much as any guards he's had in this program, Lowell.
To counter, though, you got TCU. They have a really good tandem at guard. We know about R.J. Nembhard now for a few years, but Mike Miles is a guy that's come on the scene, played with Greg Brown on the AAU circuit, was not even a top 100 prospect yet. He's one of the top scoring guards in the Big 12. They get him back after missing the last game with a non-COVID related illness.
Yeah, well, not being in that top 100 has created a little chip on his shoulder. He was overshadowed by Greg Brown and, of course, Kay Cunningham for Oklahoma State. But he's as good numbers-wise as any freshman in the conference. And then his running mate, Nembhard, is probably one of the best unhyped guards in this league. And then they have number 3 in Fuller, who will bring up the rear. But these 2 can score with the best of them, Lowell.
Yeah, it's scary to think that Miles and Nembhard, the top scoring duo in the Big 12. And after that, it's the duo from Baylor, considering what they did here in Austin against this Texas team. To tip, Big Kevin Samuel and Jericho Sims. As Texas comes into this matchup, currently projected as a number 4 seed in the NCAA tournament. They have been on a little bit of a slide, but they hope to have gotten that corrected with a win against Kansas State.
Yeah, and these games, Law, are about Texas trying to get positioning in the big dance. And then, of course, TCU, they think they may be in the conversation to sneak into the big dance, given some of their impressive wins, particularly of late.
Jamie Dixon really feels like 8 wins in Big 12 play gets you in. They are at 4. Scramble for the basketball ends up in the hands of Nembhard, and there is P.J. Fuller from 3. He's also part of that backcourt.
Yeah, and he disappeared a little bit during the season, but has resurrected his game of late.
Driving kick to Ramey, no good. Sims with the rebound to Andrew Jones, rolls out. And back to Matt Coleman. Greg Brown was a catalyst in the win against Kansas State. Was terrific early on, but there's an early turnover. He was hitting that outside shot as Chuck O'Bannon leaves it short. And Texas was fabulous from beyond the arc. It came off that poor shooting performance against Oklahoma State when they're shooting only 25%. They upped that to 51% against the Wildcats. Fuller taking advantage of back-to-back Texas turnovers.
Well, Coach Jamie Dixon has really opened things up for these TCU guards. He really encourages a lot of movement, aggressive action on the perimeter. And you see that early, and the bonus to that is Fuller, who had been struggling but has been quite impressive of late, Lowell.
Texas has to clean this up. 3 straight turnovers. And if you go back to the recent performances, when they won against Kansas State, cleaned it up. They had 10. But the losses that preceded that were nasty when it came to turning the ball over.
And I think that was a function of them allowing their shooting woes to leak into other parts of their game, that being Texas's guards. Coach Smart trusts them so much. He lives and dies by a lot of the mistakes that you're talking about, Lowell.
Kevin Samuel, known for the high percentage shots, one of the best field goal percentages in the Big 12. That's Nembhard. And Texas really wants to try to make him inefficient. They know he's going to shoot a lot. Want him down about 25% from the field, which is going to be tough to hold him to. Nice backdoor cut, but a block there from Samuel, the top blocker in the Big 12. And it's going to be a jump ball. And there is Jamie Dixon, 5th season at TCU, 18th overall as a head coach. He's never had a losing season, and he's done a tremendous job with this Horned Frogs program.
Coach Dixon coaches with a lot of passion and fire. And you see him there literally on the court, encouraging his team.
Brown for three. Got it. And that's what he was so good at early on. Had a couple of quick threes in the win in Manhattan.
So whenever he get his feet square, that being Brown, and also get his shoulders square to the basket, he is very good from beyond the arc. He also tends to play better, Flo, when he can make a shot early, because then he's not chasing buckets to get involved in the game. So this is a good sign for Texas.
Are you waiting for him to find another gear, another level at this point in the season?
Well, I'm waiting for him to do it consistently. He's shown that in some games, in fact, that we've done. Now he's just got to be able to bring it night in and night out in terms of finding the gears you're talking about.
Solid rebound there after the miss by Miles. Miles and Brown, former teammates, look out below! Jericho Sims, violent.
Okay, folks, there's not a guy in the country that is much more athletic than that. Well, he was literally looking down into the basket with that finish. That's a real finish there. Wow.
Well, you've heard the buzz around the Big 12. The other Texas bigs have more impressive numbers, Greg Brown, Kai Jones. But to point out, Jericho Sims is perhaps being the most athletic player in the conference.
Yeah, he's just a man-child, literally a man-child.
Good defense there by Coleman on Fuller. Way deep for Miles. Too strong, had to beat the shot clock. That's going to be Texas basketball.
I love the fact that Texas is getting him involved early. Nice pocket pass by Ramey, and then of course the finish. Do they go back to this type of action? These guards know that they've got to feed the big fella in Jericho and keep him involved. He's such a shy person and often over-accepts the role of not getting a lot of shots.
That's an interesting storyline though, right? We started the broadcast talking about the guards, but each team has a good interior presence. Samuel, very efficient, and then Sims and Greg Brown for the Longhorns. That rolls out. So how do these teams go about setting up the bigs?
Well, I think it's got to go through some play calling, obviously.
Picked up there by Nimhard to Miles for three. Miles leaves it short, and Coleman wrestling with Kevin Easley. New shot clock for the Horned Frogs. Good matchup here. Samuel on Sims. And a travel call on Kevin Samuel. Shaka Smart is fired up. We're knotted up at 5 here in the early going in Austin.
Is presented by Coors Light, official sponsor of the Texas Longhorns. And in part by St. David's Healthcare. The best is here.
Shaka Smart has his energy back. It's been a tough season for him, Lance. Remember earlier in the year he was limping around with a calf injury, doing some defensive drills for his guys, and then obviously he had COVID, which really did some work on him, but now it looks like the Shaka of old. He's getting his guys fired up for this game. A pivotal game and a pivotal stretch for Texas.
Yeah, and a good game for them at this juncture of the season in terms of a test because of how good TCU is in spite of their record.
Clifford, Matt Coleman for three. And if they get him going, look out. Has not been at his best recently. Did have a very good performance against Kansas State. 7 assists, no turnovers. They need him to be the guy to engineer this offensive attack.
And Coach Smart trusts him so much to be a coach on the floor, if you will. He's a key element to how this team goes in terms of personality and readiness.
Nice move by Fuller. Nimhard cleans it up. TCU had their Big 12 best, 51 rebounds in the close win against Iowa State.
TCU has had some unfortunate losses, Lowell. I mean, namely in recent history, They played Missouri all the way down the stretch and basically should have won that game. They were up 3 late in regulation and sent it into overtime. I thought they perhaps should have fouled the way Texas did against Kansas State late in that game and forced Missouri to have to make free throws and then potentially get a weird play to win that game.
Andrew Jones weaving through traffic. Yeah, TCU has had 7 different shutdowns since August that are COVID related. Nimhard, Miles, Kevin Samuel, they're the guys that make them go. And you mentioned the schedule, 7 losses on the season, 6 of those against the net top 25. And there is Nimhard, and they can't let him start getting off from outside.
Yeah, and they feel like some of those games that didn't get played, perhaps they'd be in the teens and wins.
Andrew Jones, back-to-back buckets.
I think this is good, obviously, when Jones gets it going, as well as Coleman, Lowell. But Texas's bread is buttered to me on the defensive end. Yep. That's where they've been good. There's been some slippage of late, perhaps because of COVID, but that's where they've got to win games.
Well, 2 of the last 3 opponents have shot better than 50%. Yep. Baylor and then Kansas State. So why is that? What's going on?
Well, I just think that they got out of rhythm, if you will, with the health issues, obviously with Shaka being out. And when I say rhythm, defensively, your rotations, you've got to be on what a lot of coaches call on a string with your teammates. Your help's got to come from the right places, and you have to be hungry. And we're dealing with a little bit of the dog days of the winter. Also with COVID, Lowell, and you're seeing slippage in an area that Texas, I don't think, can afford to have as they approach the latter part of the season.
Shaka told me yesterday, details, right? Just slightly off. I mean, just spacing on the court, being just a little bit closer to your man is the difference right now between guys like Nimhard making shots and not. And R.J. Nimhard is going off. He's quickly got 10 points, 2 or 3 from outside.
Yeah, and as I said at the top, he is probably one of the best unhyped guards in this league. You see the zone there that TCU is playing. They're going to force Texas to have to make shots.
Going inside is a good look to Jericho Sims, and he's off to a strong start.
I love the patience in Texas not taking the bait and trying to shoot over top and getting the big fella involved here early. That's a key for Texas's success.
Kind of get a stop as well. TCU has made 4 straight shots. And you mentioned Nimhard. Really is unheralded. He is not a name that quickly comes up when the discussion turns to the best in the Big 12, but the numbers suggest he is. Why is that? Why isn't he brought up?
Well, I think in part it's because of the jerseys won, and that, you know, this isn't quote unquote a blue blood, if you will.
Oh no! Jericho Sims bent backwards to bring it down through the cylinder.
Whoa, how about the Sims sighting? Lowell, this is a totally different team Texas is when Sims plays at this level, because he does what opponents' players cannot do. Not many can do it in the country.
Coleman gets credit for the assist. He threw it almost behind Sims, and it was go-go gadget arms. See what Andrew Jones has in store. He wants it all.
Lowell, we talked about the defense. That's what created the dunk there. Kai Jones uses the length, comes across, helps the helper, and turns defense into easy offense.
Hey, who needs defense?
Defense?
You went Ramey on me. And Sims with the block. Oh, goodness. Jericho Sims feeling flexible, feeling nasty, and throwing it down. Talk about setting the tone, Lance. That's how you do it. All the way left and right, but then they figured it out. Hey, Lance, get it to Jericho Sims, and good things are happening.
Yeah, use all of your resources, and getting Jericho involved to me is huge. He obviously did a good job out of the start. Doesn't show necessarily on the graphic there, on Samuels, keeping him quiet here early. But the type of finishes that he has, it's worth more than just the 2 points because it sets a tone for your teammates and it also delivers a message to the opponent. Great start by the guards finding Jericho early.
Meanwhile, TCU needs to get some offense outside of Nimhard and Fuller. That duo has combined for all 15 points for the Horned Frogs. Miles back in the starting lineup. Missed last game against Iowa State with a non-COVID related illness. Throws it up. And no good.
Yeah, this is huge because Mike Miles is a very good player. The job that Courtney Ramey is doing on him is quite impressive. He's really locked in, that is Ramey, on Mike Miles. And that's something I noticed that Coach Smart does. A lot of times he'll put Ramey on the other team's best player. Ramey took that challenge against Cade Cunningham here, and I thought he did a great job. He's also doing an exceptional job tonight in accepting the challenge. That is clearly his primary focus, to stop this young man, Mike Miles.
Lance, does Brock Cunningham have a mustache now? Did you see that?
I can't, from this, we could get some camera action. Boy, that would be interesting. Oh, is that some, what's his name? Is it Eric Estrada? Is that right?
Hey, you go way back.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm aging myself. Is that the Chips?
Back-to-back awful misses from three. Fuller with a good move, but Jace Febres off the bench providing energy, and here come the Horns. Cunningham, will he give it another go? And a turnover, so sloppy offensive now. Execution on 3 straight possessions.
I thought Ramey shouldn't have given that ball up. He had a mismatch on Samuel. They ended up switching. And Ramey, I thought, should have backed it up, let the teammates clear the space, and attack the feet.
That's definitely a mustache, by the way.
You know what? I was at mid-sentence, and then I saw it, and then the production went away from it, but I think I saw a mustache.
That's definitely a stash. Turn around, Brock.
I like the look.
You know what? He's the type of player that needs a mustache to be his most effective.
Yeah. Yeah, and his effective is really churning the game up, if you will, in terms of loose balls and getting the opponent out of rhythm.
So how quick was that break for Coleman and Jones? They come right back in as Texas lost the offensive flow in the previous 3 possessions.
And the offensive flow, I thought, was created by the defense.
Febres misses from 3 into the hands of Samuel. TCU down by 2, Nimhard with 10 points on 4 of 5 shooting. Aggressive turn of the corner and finish by Taryn Frank. What an amazing story. Frank, a freshman from LA, scored a career-high 8 points the last time out against Iowa State. They were the only points so far of his TCU career as Kai Jones knocks down from long distance. But TCU now starting to get production from guys like Taryn Frank, Taryn Todd, and they're getting healthier. Still waiting to get Francisco Farabello back. He's still out with the COVID protocol, but that would be essentially another point guard and a really elite outside shooter for this TCU attack.
Yeah, and in talking to the staff, basically the way they look at it, they just basically got deeper.
Yeah.
With Frank's emergence here of late. And so now they're just going to have guys play as hard as they can and run them in and out, really to keep the peace in the locker room, and they have enough guys, TCU does.
Coleman showing the moves on Miles. Cannot convert. Miles into the paint, looking for a man, no one's open. And Courtney Ramey will be called for the foul. 21-18, Texas on top.
and intensity came from the defense. How about the help from Kai Jones? And then when you help, you can also share for another Jones to finish, and then you get that stuff out of here. You kidding me? This version of Texas is the one that I think is the one that will carry the day for them if they want to make a deep run in the tournament. Not the pretty Texas, but the nasty, gritty Texas that gets it done on the defensive end of the floor, Lowell.
Violence, that's been one of the key words for the style of play with Shaka Smart's group this year, and they have come out and they've played as violent as we've seen them play since the COVID shutdown with this team, which had to have had an effect on the way they played. I mean, I go back to watching that Oklahoma State game. Matt Coleman looked absolutely gassed in the second half before they even got into the overtime.
Well, it was a two-headed monster at Oklahoma State.
Terrence Frank for three.
Frank knocks it down. The one monster, as you said, was COVID hangover and or fatigue, obviously, and then also the zone defense, which they're seeing a little bit of today. Texas could not make a shot in that game. Only 3 for 26 for the big three at the guard, as in Ramey, Coleman, and Jones.
But still, early going to this game, too many turnovers for Texas right now. It's now 6.
You'll take a bad shot over a turnover, particularly a live ball turnover, which gives a team an opportunity to turn that into a basket the way that Texas did to TCU. Well, but they are sharing the ball. 7 assists on 9 field goals is something you want to see if you're the Texas coaching staff in terms of giving the ball up.
Andrew Jones draws the foul. The level of consistency that Andrew Jones is now playing is breathtaking. 6 of the last 10 games, he has finished within 5 points of a career high or has set a career high. So it seems like every time he is going out, he is flirting with a career best performance.
Yeah, and he struggled a little bit early in the season. Actually, I had the pleasure of passing by him the other day, and just he's had a poise about him, and he has a confidence about him right now. In fact, Lo, he told me, he's like, you know, when I was a freshman, I literally used to hate you. I used to hate what you used to say about me, but
really
now, yeah, he was very candid and somewhat joking, but he said, I told him, but you know, I loved you then, I love you now. And he said, no, I appreciate it. I know where you were going with that because I always struggle at times as a freshman. But his story is amazing, not only in total, but even this season with him taking another step and really being the catalyst for this team's offense on the perimeter.
Beautiful stroke there for Andrew Jones. And early on in his career, a lot of the focus for Andrew Jones was Andrew Jones. But recently, he has started to become a great teammate. I'm talking recently since his battle with leukemia, which has been years now, but it's been a changed young man we've seen. Talking to the Texas staff, and they're mentioning how Andrew Jones recently took that man, Greg Brown, under his wing, and they had some extra time together. They went out on the court, and Jones was almost personally working out Greg Brown, showing him some different things with his footwork, some different finer points for his offensive game. And Andrew Jones wouldn't have done that as a freshman, because it was the personality more so than the experience.
Yeah, and part of that personality, I mean, comes and develops with the experience that he's gained. And he's been through so much, and it's been such a joy to watch him grow up and mature, as he says, my fault, and puts the hand on the heart. But also, you got to give some credit to Coach Smart, just for having the trust and putting the faith in Jones to give him the platform to do what he does.
Greg Brown was thinking about throwing it down, laid it up, and did not drop.
That was very Greg Brownish. Like, he's got to finish that with a lot more force, and he has the ability to do so. Just kind of squirted that ball up after putting himself in a great position to score.
Jones weaving, and it looked like he was going to have a thunderous dunk, but does enough to drop it in. And another one of those performances for Andrew Jones. He's up to 11 points. He is going to be in the discussion for another career-high performance in scoring.
Well, Texas back to their magic. They were dunking on people and making steals. Now they're letting Jones do his thing.
Talked a lot about him being selfless, and we saw it on display against Kansas State. Go back to the game against Oklahoma State, did not have an assist, was frustrated that he thought he played too selfish, so came out against Kansas State, and from the jump, his frame of mind was, how can I set up my teammates?
And Coach, a lot of that driven by Coach Smart, typically says he'll have a different theme for these games, and that one was about making teammates better.
McD with the rebound, tries to get the putback, no, good battle for the basketball, and Jace Febres brings it down. 5-point lead for the Longhorns. Lo Galindo here with Lance Blanks from the Irwin Center. TCU with back-to-back wins. Texas escaped from Manhattan, Kansas with a win after leading by 17 points with 13 minutes left against the Wildcats. And winning by 3. 5 on the shot clock. Febres the heave, no good. Who's it going to be out on? Coleman and Nembhard are going back and forth.
TCU.
And they're going to give it to TCU.
Substitution for Longhorns.
That angle you can't see. Oh
Yeah, off Coleman.
Coleman knocked that out.
A right hand.
Yep. But he does the right thing. Wasn't me. Wasn't my hand. You gonna believe your lying eyes?
Here's Fuller. As Texas presses. Jamie Dixon said recently they've done very well against the press. Sims with the block. And it will stay with TCU. He's been the rim protector for the Longhorns.
Well, there it is again, Lowell. Texas defense gives them an opportunity to press, and then guess what? You got a goalie in the back. In Sims, he has the ability to block the ball and not foul. It's exceptional defense. He's such a luxury, literally on both ends of the floor, Sims is.
Rattles out for O'Bannon. If something is going to give him a chance in the NBA, great ball movement to Kai Jones. Pulled that thought. Wow. Quick touch there from Jericho Sims to Kai Jones.
That's growth, because that's one of the complaints of Sims. He saw the play after the play, which has been a challenge for him. He's showing a whole new dimension to what he can bring to this team.
7-0 run for the Longhorns. Cranking up the intensity on defense. Nembhard, it's been a battle lately. Sims is there, and Greg Brown with the rebound. Good stop by the Longhorns. So Nembhard running into some adversity. Brown was stretching, and he's going to at least draw the foul. 7-zip run for the Longhorns.
Oh, what you see, this is a little Wayne Gretzky. Where is it? Oh, there's the play. He saw that man coming. How about Kai cutting, Sims passing? Texas in a groove.
Had 10 quick points, has been shut out since. Jones and Coleman with 14 points. Lance, how do you think this battle of the backcourts is going thus far?
It's going as would be expected. The beauty for Texas is they have other places they can go to get big buckets. But what stands out for me, Lowell, is really the 0 points for Mike Miles. And I think that is going to be a key for TCU in terms of having a chance to be involved in winning this game. They're going to need Mike Miles. Credit Ramey for his great defense. He hasn't scored either, but he has many more resources and options than does TCU.
Well, we're seeing the easier buckets start to stack up for Texas with Jericho Sims and Kai Jones' presence inside. Kevin Samuel, meanwhile, has 1 point, and it's a free throw. Does not have a single field goal attempt in this game. He's probably the easiest bucket you're going to get if you're TCU.
And early, Texas did a good job. They even doubled him, trying to keep the ball from him getting easy looks.
O'Bannon rips it home. That's Chuck O'Bannon, son of the former UCLA great Charles O'Bannon, nephew of Ed. Started his career at USC. Former 5-star prospect at a high school.
Yeah, and he had a ton of injuries, and it wasn't until this year where he could get it going and get a rhythm in terms of games played.
Brown falling down and hitting the three. Brown coming off a 4 of 5 performance from distance and the win against Kansas State. He's staying hot from outside.
I really like every one of Brown's possessions so far for Texas. He's not forcing anything, taking clean looks, also playing with a level of poise.
And Miles into the box score for the first time in the scoring column.
He is so good, Miles is, at going and finding space to get his shot off.
Collision underneath, and that's going to be a blocking foul on top.
Matt Coleman, he's so good at knowing where people are. Throws you off a little bit because he's a lefty. Does do a good job of spacing. Coleman will find you. I mean, Coleman, as he takes a break, it'll be key for Texas to take care of the ball with Coleman on the bench. But a lot of times people will say he's like a coach on the floor. Well, Coleman's a little Shaka on the floor.
Jones, nice turnaround, drops it, and Jones is up to 13.
Texas guards showing a lot of poise when they get in tough situations offensively.
Jones more than halfway to his career high of 25. And Kai Jones called for the foul against Fuller. Actually injured Jones with number 2, so that's big.
Well, Jones gets inside, and here, watch the nice little fade away. Getting your shot off, Lowell, that's a skill set. Now watch him create space here as he falls away from the basket. Makes it almost impossible for Mike Miles to do anything with the size difference as well as the fadeaway.
35-26 lead for the Longhorns. Miles, number 1 in purple, Nimhard 22. Both top 10 in scoring in the Big 12. Samuel facing the double team. Jace Febres gets the swat from behind.
Well, that's what clearly Texas is not going to give up, as easy looks to Samuel. That was a very difficult entry pass from Miles right over the top, and then the Texas defense just swarming the big fella, not allowing Samuel to really get much of anything around the rim.
2 on the shot clock. Fuller gets it off, but a foul is called on Jace Febres on the shot.
Well, that's one of those NBA coach would want to challenge that. He got caught up on the screen, and then he did foul. He fouled the offhand. It's a good call by the official.
So that will send B.J. Fuller to the line for 3 shots. And they will take a look.
I think they're reviewing if it was a 3-pointer or not.
It looked like it was clearly a 3-pointer, and they will confirm that quickly and say 3 free throw attempts. Fuller, a 70% free throw shooter on the year. And here's the look they saw. And easy to confirm that.
Yep.
So TCU at 4-5. Going back to our conversation that we had with Jamie Dixon. Got the chances to make the NCAA tournament. Feels like consistently 8 wins in the conference. You have a good chance of getting in. Feel that way this season?
Well, this is such a unique and different season, and I gotta believe there will be a lot of unique criteria beyond what's normal in terms of who gets selected. I mean, but if Oklahoma State is in the conversation, I think TCU has to be in the conversation. They still have work to do, though. I mean, they still got to play these games and get something in the W column. But yes, Lowell, I'd put TCU in the conversation. They've got a good team, and they've had some great showings this season.
Too easy there for Matt Coleman. And Dixon's point being the Big 12 is now consistently, in his words, clearly the best conference in college basketball. Those teams will be rewarded. Under a minute to play in the first half. They're looking at Kevin Samuel inside, but Sims is not giving him space. Fuller to step back. That's going to go out of bounds, and it will be Texas basketball with 43 seconds left.
And had they even got that in, look where Samuel was trying to post. I mean, Sims had it at least 3 feet outside of the paint. We're talking about a much smaller man, but one who is probably stronger than Samuel.
Coleman short. We're looking for the 2 for 1. Here's Nembhard. About 3 seconds different between game clock and shot clock. Nembhard with 10 points, 4 of 10 shooting, but that all came early in this first half. Denies the screen. Brown does not give him space. Coleman to Ramey. Ramey cannot convert. And we go to the half with Texas holding on to the 37-29 lead over TCU. Matt Coleman, 5 points, 3 assists, and another turnover-free performance. Closing in on Lance Blanks, by the way, to get to number 20 in Texas career scoring. That's the drama we're talking about, Lance. We'll have more on Matt Coleman coming up at halftime as Texas leads by 8.
Boy, how about the maturity of Matt Coleman, the freshman? The lefty is really growing up right in front of our eyes.
He made 4 consecutive free throws in the final 2 minutes to help clinch the victory.
Me and Coach talk about a lot of things, how I should be connected and always play.
Right out of the gate, Lowell, they go to Sims and get the ball to him. Again, getting him involved in the offense. We saw that in the first half, and it paid huge dividends for Texas. They come back and use that part of their playbook where they post a big fella and get him involved and engaged in the game early. That's a key. Look for that going forward, Lowell, as the season progresses, because he can do a lot for this team offensively.
Sims was outstanding in the first half. You see his numbers now, 7 points and 5 rebounds. Had 2 thunderous dunks, a thunderous block, and a fantastic assist to set up Kai Jones as well. So he's checked all the boxes as he splits at the line.
Yes, so we're talking about Samuel in the defense. It's because of that young man there, Sims. You see he gets a hand in the passing lane. He's done a great job of pushing the big fella away from the basket, and then also he's been getting help. So essentially Texas's message to TCU is if you're going to score on us, it's going to have to be from the perimeter. We're not going to let Kevin Samuel get it done around the basket where he shoots a high percentage goal.
And we're not sure if Miles is at 100%. Missed the last game against Iowa State with a non-COVID related illness. Samuel, nice position, and a nice finish there. And the first field goal made by Kevin Samuel today.
That was driven by the high screen and then dive into the basket and not enough length to keep him from scoring that close.
Sims trying to keep that alive, but it will go to TCU. So Kevin Samuel, second best field goal percentage in the Big 12 because of high percentage looks like this. He just needs more of them.
Yeah, and Greg Brown really was the guy who needs to come over and be the helper. He was too late. Got caught between the perimeter guy and helping the roller in the screen.
Kick out to O'Bannon, short. And another rebound for Greg Brown, who's had a fantastic first half. Coleman, a little out of control, but gets it back. Andrew Jones for three, too strong. And that's gonna be a foul on Greg Brown as he was skying in looking for that rebound.
Well, Greg Brown is such a great rebounder, and you have different type of rebounders. Some rebounders, Lowell, they'll box out. Some go get the ball. He's a guy that goes and gets it. Look at him almost get this ball at its apex as Fuller sees this eclipse of a person come in over his head. He's a great crasher of the basket when it comes to rebounding the basketball, Brown is.
And oozes of upside. Sims fouls Miles. So we were talking about Jericho Sims right when he got that tip pass to set up Kai Jones. And I was about to ask you, if he's going to have a shot in the NBA, what's going to give him that shot? What's the most intriguing part of his game for an NBA team?
Well, first off, I would think that his athletic ability, because he would be at the higher end of the food chain in terms of just raw athlete ability to run and jump, catch. He just possesses that. And then secondly, his ability to rebound the basketball, though. I mean, he's a guy that can use his strength around the rim to get a lot of rebounds for people. And I think he has a chance of being as good in the NBA as he is in college if he's in the right situation and the right environment.
Coleman gets bailed out of what would have been his first turnover, but it goes off TCU, so it will stay with Texas. And you know what you're talking about. Former NBA GM that we're talking to here with Lance Blank. So you really do feel like he's going to get that opportunity.
Well, that's what it is. I mean, a lot of times people will say, oh, well, this guy, he's definitely an NBA player or he's not an NBA player. You really never know until a guy gets into his environment, because there are things that guys do not control, Lowell.
Coleman for three.
The things you don't control, Lowell, when you get to the next level, the team you're on, how much the GM is excited about you or the coach, or who gets injured, all of those variables can impact what type of career or whether you have a career at all. The known factors of Sims, though, are there and good enough for him to do what he does and do it well in the NBA.
Miles gets it by him. And Mike Miles needs to get it going. He's now up to 6 points.
We had to know that he was not going to keep it quiet here. We've seen him a couple of times in pick and roll type situations where he's scoring. He's going to press the envelope to try to get involved in this game, Lowell.
You're a big fan of Mike Miles' game.
I'm bigger than that. I'm a huge fan because of his personality. Plays with a little bit of a quiet chip on his shoulder, and he just plays the game. His emotions don't necessarily ebb and flow, and he, as a freshman, he doesn't have a lot of experiential resources to tap into, and yet he is meeting the call at every turn in what we believe is the best conference in the country.
What a move by Matt Coleman, going baseline for the finish. Coleman's got 10 points.
Coleman does such a good job of knowing what to do and when to score, when to pass, when to just run offense and control pace. He's a college coach's dream in terms of his age and maturity at the point guard position.
And Samuel throws it away. He was looking for O'Bannon. So it will be Texas basketball. Here's that move.
Well, he gets down the baseline and a little bit of an old Steve Nash-ish type move. Look at that. You think he's running out of space.
Yeah.
And if you're Fuller, you can't allow yourself to get caught on Coleman's hip. You've got to beat him to the spot and cut him off, because Coleman is just too crafty, especially going left, to allow to get that kind of room along the baseline.
And Coleman will get a little breather as Jace Febres checks in for the Horns. Ramey left wide open for three. And Miles has the rebound. Been a tough go for Ramey. Still scoreless. Fuller, nice pass. And Ledee with the finish.
Ledee is the ham of TCU.
I like it.
Yeah, very similar player. Both sometimes get outside of their envelope, but they can clean things up, particularly around the basket.
Oh my. Mike Miles switching hands to finish with Jericho Sims lurking for another block.
So good at finishing under the basket at his size.
Well, you knew Mike Miles wouldn't stay down long.
No, you did. Low, but we're not talking about a big man. We're talking about a big game. There you see him with the little dipsy doodle to finish at the rim.
Nimhard. Nimhard backing down Jones. Was there a travel? Won't matter. Shot clock violation. Texas basketball.
Well, TCU has done a nice job of kind of easing their way back into this game on the back of Mike Miles, but much like the first half, Lowell, it'll be about Texas's defense and the ability to get stops and also keep Nimhard as quiet as possible here in this second half.
Kai Jones for three. Leaves it short. Cunningham harassed. He's going to hold on to the ball. Get it to Coleman, gets it back. That's what Brock Cunningham does. Andrew Jones inside, and he scores for the first time since the break.
Jones, you talk about being back. How about the strength? He held the line to the basket. We get to see that again. It was beautiful to see. Came right at us, Lowell. He was pushed, held the line, and got the easy finish.
Febres with good hands. To Andrew Jones, one-on-one. Jones, back-to-back buckets for AJ1. And TCU calls a timeout.
Yeah, and I got a new nickname for him, and it is Buckets, because that's what he gets. Lowell, talk about toe the line. Watch him. You're on my hip. Guess what? Bump, bump, basket. And then, of course, coming the other way, you know what I do? I get buckets.
Jones, who is going to flirt once again with the career highs, up to 17 points right now. That career high 25 points that he put up against Baylor. And RJ Nimhard, 10 points, it looks good. But you got to consider, 10 points came in a stretch of about 2 minutes. He's been shut down since then, Lance.
Yeah, and what Texas likes is the number of shots it's taking Nimhard to get to that 10 points, 4 for 12, not a great shooting percentage. And on the other side of that, Jones is in as good a groove as he's been in all season long. He's, particularly of late, has just been quite impressive. But today his teammates are looking for him.
Miscommunication.
He's giving it back to him.
Yeah, Terran Todd was looking for Nimhard. They weren't on the same page.
Well, you hate this as a coach coming out of a timeout. There's really no reason for this token pressure by Texas. Literally, Febres is 5'6" feet. No reason to turn that ball over that way. Calling for the high, what I thought would be a screen.
Kai Jones will take the long J instead and go out of bounds. They say it did not. To Brock Cunningham for three. And Cunningham has really struggled recently with his shot. He's getting open looks, just not converting them. Although primary job is just to kind of wreak havoc on the game, get the deflections, get the loose balls, but it would be an extra boost if he could knock down those shots.
Yeah, and Low, as a lot of coaches say, no, you've heard it, there's a reason those looks are open.
Yeah.
Teams are not necessarily worried about him knocking it down, and to your point, particularly late. He had to miss that. But as a coach, you don't want to take that away from him if your shot is smart. He gives as good an effort as anyone on this Texas ball club.
And certainly impacts games in his own way.
That's exactly right. 50-50 balls, defense, doesn't back down. And he sets a tone, this Texas ball club.
We'll see how long Andrew Jones sits here, as Nembhard just cannot get anything to go. So Jones picked up foul number 3. He's on the bench. Gotta remind everybody, this is a huge game for Texas. As Brown is short on that, and there is Brock Cunningham. That's the impact that he is known to make. To Coleman, and they're gonna call this off and call Coleman for a travel. But this is a pivotal game for Texas, a team that has not been at its best, and a 3-game losing streak snapped against Kansas State. They're trying to go back-to-back here. Point. TCU playing for a chance to get in the tournament. Last 11:52, it's going to be critical for both teams.
Yeah, in different ways, they're playing for their tournament lives. Texas, where they'll end up in trying to advance. Let's keep in mind, Coach Smart has not had a victory here in the tournament, and I'm sure that's something that bothers him. And TCU has had some unfortunate losses and feel that they have a team that should be considered for the tournament. Big game for both of these teams.
Nembhard has missed 9 straight. Greg Brown putting it down. And even better, no technical foul.
And even better, he paused, and then how about the hustle to get back? He's the 5-man with this roster on the floor and get in position to guard that man there, Kevin Samuel.
And he draws the charge against Samuel. Greg Brown playing with emotion and leaving it all on the court.
Well, this is attacking the rim and part of his game and what he can do. You'll see the little pause. He's right in position, knees are bent, great job. Flummoxed is the word I want to use in terms of what kind of day Kevin Samuel is having on the offensive end of the floor. Texas has totally discombobulated him.
And that will be an offensive foul on Matt Coleman. Well, they've gone away from Samuel. You remember the beginning of the year, he was very active in the TCU offense and was scoring in double digits pretty regularly. The production has dropped, and it seems almost like it's dropped because TCU simply hasn't looked his way as much.
Well, and part of that is because of those guards are so good, and Coach Dixon knows that. Give him the ball just enough to keep him engaged.
That is a huge response by Terran Frank.
Well, on cue, and Frank is an example of that. You mentioned it a moment ago with his coming out party in their last game.
Can't have this by your senior leader at point guard. Back-to-back possessions with turnovers. But there's that play we're speaking of with Frank. Guy that was lost in this TCU rotation before he scored all 8 of his career points the last time out in the win against Iowa State.
Yeah, and they've seen some of that. They thought away from game situations. He's just kind of found himself.
Kai Jones erases it. Texas basketball.
And I think
now,
Mike Miles might be right here.
He's looking for a goaltend.
Yeah, because I think he got it on the rim and then it got blocked. He did. Got it to the rim and the official missed that call. And you see the
Jamie Dixon is losing his mind right now.
That should be the case. He gets it. And that's just a smart move by a guard. I don't know that he had a chance of making that, but he knew, get it up on the backboard, and he did. And unfortunately, the call was missed.
10 minutes left. Key Big 12 game for both Texas and TCU. Ramey for 3. Ramey still has not scored. Todd with the drive, looking for the crazy finish, and draws the foul. Looks like that's on Jericho Sims, which will be number 3.
That's unfortunate, because I thought the guards for Texas created that. The bigs, as in Brown and Sims, Lowell did a great job of getting back, running the floor, transition defense-wise, and in the first wave, meaning the guards on the perimeter, allowed the drive, allowed Taryn Todd to break the defense down and get the foul.
Friendly roll for Todd. And with 9:47 left, it's a 3-point lead for the Longhorns. Jones. Nice touch. And Jones has 19.
You know,
6 points away from his career high.
Well, it just seems like sometime there are those nights that or days, no matter what you put up, it's going in the basket.
Andrew Jones called for a foul there. That's number 4. So Jones will certainly head to the bench here. And 9:25. This is a long time to close this one out for Texas without clearly their best scorer now going to the bench.
Well, and that's a little poetic for Jones because the only person that can stop Jones tonight is Jones. And so the reason is because of the foul, so he's got to go back to the bench. One more foul and he's out of the game, but I thought Nembhard did a good job with the cut because he caught Jones sleeping on the defensive end and out of position.
So Nembhard to the line.
And then, well, 1 or 2. Almost was going to say, what does this do for Nembhard, given that he's been scoreless?
Yeah, he's looking for some confidence, right?
Exactly, and when you're looking for confidence, the one thing you want to see is the ball go through the basket.
Leave inside, and Sims is fouled. Took both hands. Look at the hug from Greg Brown. He loves it.
Well,
Brown loved the effort there. Sims was ripping it.
I love how Brown loves his teammates, but that's how I feel about Sims today. This is the Sims that we've been looking for much of the season, and he has it today on both ends. And
look at this.
Brown, I feel you, brother. I feel like you do, man. How about that?
That's you and me after every broadcast.
Yeah, absolutely. And how about Brown celebrating a teammate? I mean, you've got to like that. A lot of times young guys aren't willing to give out that energy, or they get a little too into themselves. And no matter how Brown has played all season long, Lowell, he has always celebrated his teammates, and that's a good attribute to have, especially if you want to go where this young man will be going on to the next level.
And meanwhile, Jericho Sims goes 2 of 2 from the line. But you're right with Greg Brown. He plays with flash. There's a flair there. There's an intensity as Coleman rips it away and Coleman lays it in. But he's also tough. And like you said, a fantastic teammate.
And how can you miss free throws after a hug like that?
And Coleman was there with the defensive effort. Another hug from Greg Brown, and how about a flex as well?
Well, and Coleman has taken over this game on the defensive end. Obviously, he gets the steal here. And then the tip off Todd. But Lowell, these guys, namely the guards for Texas, typically give Coach Smart more than they take away. You might remember about 3 minutes ago, he had the little dribble out of bounds. Well, he's given it back in spades to Coach Smart and his teammates, Coleman that is.
Nice feed to Jericho Sims, but it was pushed out before that bucket. So foul on TCU.
Well, and then he gives you more because he draws the foul, gets you a little bit closer to the bonus. The foul was actually probably a benefit to TCU because that would have ended nightmarish with Mr. Sims putting it down.
And Greg Brown called for a travel.
And that's the first time I think all day long I've seen Brown get a little bit ahead of himself with the feet, a little bit too overzealous. But he too has been great today with his poise and decision making, and he catches the ball on the perimeter.
Taryn Todd working on Coleman. 8-point lead for the Longhorns. Samuel harassed by Ramey and Sims, muscles it, but Brown gets the rebound. Tough go for Kevin Samuel inside.
Yeah, just too difficult.
Kai Jones. Fuller initially left him some room, didn't close. And Jones missed everything. 7:37 left. Andrew Jones on the bench with 4 fouls, but Matt Coleman has stepped it up in his place. It's 55-47, Texas leads.
About today, namely the reemergence of Sims. He's been special in every way, showing the full arsenal. First the block, obviously, then the passing, and then everyone knows he can really finish above the rim. He's flummoxed this young man, and Samuels with the swarming defense, he's kept him quiet all day long. He's the X factor, I think, Lowell, for this Texas ball club as they start to wind down conference play. They will need this young man going into the tournament, and he can get a lot done.
Well, you've said it many times calling these games that when Sims is at his best, Texas is at his best. But that's also been the biggest issue, the consistency, right? When is this Jericho Sims going to show up?
Well, and part of that, I think part of the onus goes on his team and teammates. You might remember, Lowell, we came out the first half and they found him and got him the ball. I'm sorry, the second half, and then in the first half, they also got him the ball. I think you've got to get him involved offensively and get him a little excited in terms of impact.
There's the first bucket for Courtney Ramey. Comes at the right time, 10-point lead for the Longhorns. And going back to Sims, he is not a loud guy. He is very quiet by nature. So not just demonstrative in a way where he's going to demand the basketball vocally.
And that's why you've got to, as the guards and coaches, run plays for him and do things that force him to be involved.
Fuller missed everything. Out off Mike Miles and Shaka Smart. He's playing form defense on the court side, looking for that kill with the slap on the court.
Wow. Coach Smart's got the juice back. No more hangover from the COVID issues.
How pathetic was it when we saw him early in the season? And he was limping around. Because I think he was showing how to close out, right?
Yeah.
Ended up straight in his calf. Oh, yeah. Jericho Sims making it look easy. And Texas extends the lead to 12. Largest lead of the night for the Longhorns in an 8-zip run.
How about Kamaka? I mean, talk about a cheerleader on the bench and embracing a role.
We should probably just have a camera dedicated to him that you get on a separate channel. It is entertaining and hilarious.
It is. I mean, he's talk about into the game.
TCU needs a bucket. That's going to be an offensive foul on O'Bannon. And there he is. Kamaka Hepa bringing the energy courtside.
Give everybody a little love. Samuels tries to help just a little bit. And with Sims, you don't have to be perfect. Just throw it up pretty much anywhere. And he'll put it down, and then Kamaka doing his job, dapping everybody up.
We've said many times, he's got a future as a coach if he wants one. Always staying engaged, and he's ready when called upon, as he was when Texas went through that COVID scare.
They had a huge game against Kansas State in both places, at home and on the road.
Coleman, fake to look at Sims. Ramey, tough, and one for Courtney Ramey.
What was special about that, Lowell, is he didn't just put his head down and go. You'll see the little side crab dribble where he draws the foul. Dribble, crab, take the hit, bucket. Boy, it just shows his strength, and also that you don't necessarily have to turn the corner in order to make a play.
Also shows you that to be good, Texas does not have to have everybody firing on all cylinders at once. Ramey started slow. Andrew Jones goes to the bench, and Ramey starts to pick up the slack.
And it's just because to that point, they have so many weapons.
Nice move by Miles, and he finishes. And Jamie Dixon calls for a timeout as he feels this one is at a very critical juncture. It was a 2-point game. Texas has now run away to make this a 13-point lead. So what is Jamie Dixon trying to cook up here in the final 5 minutes?
Well, he's got to get on a run defensively, and that's an area where Coach Dixon knows at times they have struggled. I mean, you saw that actually in the recent game against Iowa State. They were just exchanging baskets, kind of like they were doing at one point here early in the first half with Texas. They have to get stops. Yes, offense is important. They've got to score more, but they can't just exchange baskets with Texas, Lowell. They've not only in stopping Texas, because with a team like Texas, it's almost impossible to shut them out. You've got to figure out, if you're TCU, what you're going to live with. What is it that you're going to roll the dice on in terms of forcing that guy or forcing a certain action for Texas to have to score?
Well, Texas is locked in on number 22 in purple, R.J. Nembhard. Came in as one of the top scorers in the Big 12. Been held to 11 points, has not hit a field goal since the 12:51 mark in the first half, and he's 4 of 14. And at practice yesterday, Shaka Smart made it a point to tell his guys, we want to make Nembhard as inefficient as we can. I think they've done that.
Yeah, and inefficiency means volume shooting at a low percentage, which is plays in Texas's favor. And I think the way they were defending there, Lowell, there was too much cushion for Texas to survey the land and pass the ball. TCU's got to apply a lot more pressure.
Nembhard for 3. And that's the first bucket since the 12:51 mark, which capped a spurt in which he scored 10 points in 2 minutes. They will need more of that, now down 10.
Yeah, and don't count TCU out. They've been in games like this that they've won and lost. They're very explosive, particularly on the perimeter. So Texas will have to close them out.
Brown for 3, trying to make sure that does not happen. Three for 3 from deep.
I wish we could do statistics on when he's square and his shooting percentages.
What are we talking about there, more in depth?
Well, when he gets his body and his feet set and his shoulders square to the basket, he being Brown, he shoots at a very high percentage. When he's a little more rushed and his body's a little out of kilter, he does not shoot the ball as well. That last basket, he was square.
Brown lost the handle. Here come the Frogs. Nembhard contested. Sims with the rebound. 3 minutes left here in Austin.
Clock working heavily against TCU, Lowell. They've got to figure out a way to not only speed up the game, but get stops. Texas doing a great job controlling pace and situation, and they have the secret weapon on the bench in Jones. Texas is in full control here down the stretch.
Making the move to the new home of Texas basketball. It's cost $388 million to make. That will be the most advanced college basketball arena around at the time of its completion. And Lance, I hope I'm there with you, calling many more Texas basketball games.
Yeah, hope is a big word. There's so much unknown outside of the Moody Center in terms of society and where things will be given the pandemic and some of the challenges that are attached to it.
Just hope for a better day. And hope those days are coming. Miles calls for the travel. Andrew Jones has checked back into the game with 4 fouls. So he left with 9:25 left. Texas holding on to a 51-46 lead. He was well on his way to a career high in scoring. And Texas, to his teammates' credit, they stretched the lead without Jones in the game, which is not meant to lessen the impact that he has had in this game and for this team. 2:15 left. 5 on the shot clock for Coleman. Gets it off in time and finishes. Matty Ice.
We're very fortunate there with that possession. It was extremely crowded over there, not a lot of space. And when the floor cleared, she did an exceptional job in the mid-range.
No good from outside for Miles. The heave to Ramey, who will slow it down. Smart move there by Courtney Ramey.
Good decision making. Yep, the clock is your friend. You can get seconds to tick off of it if you're Texas.
This is Matt Coleman. Shot clock winding down, showing patience and the ability to knock it down.
Well, Ramey clearing out there is what created that, because he vacates the area and it allowed Coleman to go to work.
So this starts a stretch for both teams in which they will play 5 games in 11 days. And a chance for Texas to really show what kind of team they're gonna be as they make their way closer to the NCAA tournament. I still think there are questions with the recent slide. How much of that was Texas? How much of that was affected by COVID?
Seeding will be a major key for Texas, I think. And I think they still have a chance to get to second in the conference, which is important, Lowell. And also potentially get to the 2 line or back to the 2 line. If I'm Texas, that's where I'm trying to get for the tournament.
And there are plenty of opportunities left on their schedule to do just that.
Yeah, and I've called some of these games and talking to coaches. For instance, Coach Self for Kansas talks about their new goal. You know, they've all but conceded, okay, Baylor's going to win the conference, but who's going to get that second spot in the conference? And I think if it's Texas, you have to talk about them possibly being in the 2 line for the tournament.
So next up for the Longhorns, try for a little revenge. Going to OU on Tuesday, matchup you'll see on ESPN. Iowa State struggling, but they're making games interesting. You see that on Thursday. And then West Virginia, Kansas, at Texas Tech. Still keep in mind they have 1 game against Baylor they have to make up as well. That was postponed earlier in the year. So plenty of opportunity as Kai Jones gets the flush.
And he can do that. Hadn't had his best outing today. But I expect Kai Jones to come back. And when this team will be scary, low, is when all cylinders get it going.
Time for a little showtime if they want it, but Matt Coleman will say, we'll just run this one out.
Yep.
Texas has done its work. Classy move there by Matt Coleman. It's what you want to see.
Yep, no need to embarrass your opponent.
Phenomenal job by Texas defensively on R.J. Nembhard. Offensively, Jericho Sims set the tone. Andrew Jones got it going. And then when Jones checked out, Matt Coleman and Courtney Ramey really did a fine job picking up the slack to help them close this game out in a critical win in the Big 12.
Well, I think the way I would describe this game, they learned a lot in terms of bringing Sims back and getting him going, but also they met all their tests. The one test were the guards for TCU kept Miles quiet, which helped, obviously, then got Nembhard quiet, and then also kept Samuel under wraps. So I thought they did a great job, Texas, in passing all tests that needed to be passed to get the win.
Well, Matt Coleman comes up with 15 points, has 4 assists as well. What impressed you the most from what you saw from Matt Coleman?
Well, just the poise and touching on all parts of the game, getting teammates involved. He made a mistake late, as you said, but then gave it right back with his defense. Got the steal, then got the tip off the foot. I mean, he's so dynamic, and again, he's not like a coach on the floor. He's like having a little shaka on the floor, and he shows that with his execution and what he does for this ball club.
Courtney Ramey was one of those guys, did not score in the first half. Took him a while to get going, but he had the critical buckets. And it was a big showing point for Texas, what they did when Andrew Jones went out. He was electric once again. One of those games where he's been doing lately, where he's flirting with that career high in scoring, which is 25 points. But he was out of the running for that once he went out with the 4 fouls. But Matt Coleman, one of the guys who picked up the slack. And Coleman now joins us. Matt, the only downside to your performance is that you are, you left it 1 point shy of tying career high, or Lance Blank, for number 20 on the career scoring list at Texas.
I gotta make my free throws. Dang.
Yeah, that was it. You missed the
Gotta
free
make
throw.
my free throws.
You're not going to let him stay there at number 20,
we got
are
like
you?
12 games left. I'm getting that.
You're going to pass them up. Hey, so what was key for you guys in this win? It was closer in the second half. How'd you guys do it?
Just in the first half, I think we defended really well. We calculated our deflections and our kills, and we had 18 deflections, 4 kills at the half. And we get 32 and 8, that we have a great chance to win the game, and we wanted to carry that over to the second half. So we just want to lead with our defense, and then offensively, I felt like we could get what we want. Andrew Jones played well, started well with us, for us. Greg came in, gave us great minutes. Courtney got going late, I got going late. Jericho was very dominant. So it was just a collective group.
Hey, Matt, I want to talk about the defense. I mean, one of the keys I thought. Okay, good. well, you know what, man? We need to switch spots because you're pretty good on the TV screen.
Hey, man, I'm a natural, baby.
You are a natural, man. I like the baby, and you're loose as a goose. But truly, I thought you did an exceptional job on the guards. In fact, we talked about it a little bit yesterday with how good the TCU guards are. What went into your scheme and or game plan as it related to, namely, Nembhard and Miles, and trying to get them stopped and keeping them under wraps?
The biggest was not to over-respect them and their team. You play games like, Kansas, you play West Virginia, Texas Tech, so you always get up for those games. And, in the past, we have to learn that as a mature group that we have to be ready to play against anybody. And a lot of respect to Nembhard and Mike Miles because they are really great guards in the conference, both averaging high double figures. So we just had to come out as a guard group, as a collective group, and just make sure that we did our best job against them. Okay, you've been a little out of kilter up until recently in terms of wins, but you only won at the buzzer, per se, against Kansas State, and then now that you have the big win today, what do you have to do to position yourself to have a nice run as we approach tournament season? The biggest thing is just playing unselfish. Anybody at any given moment could have a great game. But we just got to continue to be unselfish on the offensive end, staying connected on the offense and defensive end, and just our defense is what leads to wins.
Hey, I got one more, and it's really important.
Talk to me.
What's the story behind Brock's mustache?
Man, he's my roommate, so he came in and he just had it. He just cut the facial hair and just kept the mustache. I can't explain it, man. He likes it. It's working for him, so.
What do you think? You okay with it?
And are those your barber skills? It's your roommate.
Nah,
did you cut all that?
I don't do no barber skills, baby. I leave that for the professionals.
Clifford, we appreciate
That's
it.
how you gonna do me on TV, Clifford?
Yeah, Clifford Matt Coleman III, baby.
Well, you turn your boy into Eric Estrada, so Clifford it all.
Doesn't know who Eric Estrada is?
Yes, he does. He said he can do it like that, baby. He told me that earlier.
Have you ever heard of Eric Estrada?
I have not. I'm gonna be honest with you.
I told you, man.
I'm gonna be honest.
Chips, old school. You can look it up on Wikipedia or something
Well, you
like
got to
that.
put me on blast.
Hey,
See,
I just been
God,
honest.
he did it to both of us. This guy, man.
Yeah.
Matt,
Unbelievable.
we appreciate you, buddy. Take care.
Appreciate y'all, baby.
All right, good job, buddy. Good luck.
Oh, so this is a win they obviously needed. And they've got the opportunity out there. What does Texas have to do to make sure they realize that kind of opportunity and they become the team you feel they can going into the tournament?
Well, they've got to get back to where they were early in the season and start hitting on all cylinders. Today, they didn't have the Kai Jones that we know they can have. Also, they've got to figure out how are they going to do with their rotations. Ham was in, Ham's out. Cunningham is not fully what Cunningham has been in the recent past. So once they get all of their rotations down and get everyone hitting on all cylinders, I think they will be a very dangerous team. And the best thing about it, Lowell, is they've got enough time to get there. And mostly Shaka knows it.
Hey, last game for us this season on Longhorn Network. Always fun.
Tears,
Always
baby.
fun, my man.
Tears,
I know.
Tears. Hey, that was 6 feet, right?
That was.
That's 3.5.
We're good. We're
and
good,
that's
baby.
2.5 feet.
Come on.
That's 6 feet.
I don't know why I love this
math.
guy,
That's
but
good
I
math.
love him.
3.5, 2.5.
To all of our amazing crew, thanks for the fantastic season covering Texas men's basketball here on Longhorn Network. Next up for the Longhorns, they got Oklahoma. And coming up next on LHN, Longhorn Extra this week. For Lance Blakes, I'm Lo Galindo. Thank you so much for watching men's basketball on Longhorn Network.
Lift every voice.